Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you are having a very fine day today. It is now the beginning of April 2019, and so things are well on their way towards the season of spring. And so I hope all is well with you and whatever that brings. I want to take this opportunity, if I may, to address a really nice question that I received from a viewer. The viewer gave me permission to mention it here in a video format, and so I'd like to respond in a video format, if I may. The viewer's name is, and please forgive me if my pronunciation is incorrect, Blarf Splitzendel. So Blarf Splitzendel. And you asked, what are my viewing habits when I watch movies? Do I have any specific habits? Do I watch films in the daytime? Do I watch films at night? What are my viewing habits with respect to the films that I watch? This is a very interesting question, and so I just thought I'd take a few moments here to respond. So thank you very much for the very insightful and interesting question. I really appreciate it. I suppose, for me, it all comes down to the practical concerns, in that I can't necessarily watch a film in the daytime, because I work in the daytime, and so that prevents me from watching a film in the daytime, on the weekdays anyway, the days that I work. So if I am so inclined to try to watch a film on the weekday, then I either have to wake up very, very early, or I have to stay up late at night and wait until my family, my wife and my children, are asleep. And the reason why I usually wait for them to go to sleep is because, not always, but usually the films that I watch will be ones that are not usually ones that my family will like to watch together with me. That's to say that I think sometimes there is a bit of intense content that comes with some of the films that I watch. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes I like to watch horror films, for example. And so I try not to show that stuff to my younger ones because I don't think it's appropriate. And so I try to make sure that all that is pretty much tucked away and it doesn't get played until well after they are all asleep. And so once that happens, what I'll do is I will quietly leave the room and I will come into this room, which is, I suppose it's like a spare room, or it's not a guest room maybe, but it's the room that's separate from the rest of my home here. And so there's a little TV, which you can't see, but it's over that way. And there is a Blu-ray player, and there's a Laserdisc player, and there's a VCR. And so I'm able to watch any of those formats on this TV here. There's also a main TV that I have in the main room, but that's usually for family watching. So that means maybe family-oriented films, or watching TV together, maybe after dinner or something like that, watching kids' shows and things. So I don't usually like to watch films over there, because it'll usually occupy the family time, and so I'll try to watch everything in this room. The kids sometimes come in here, and if that's the case, then for instance on a weekend, if that's the case, then the kids might come in and while I'm watching something. So I'll try to be careful if I'm watching a film on the weekend or on a day off when the kids are awake. I'll try to pick something that is not inappropriate for their age, so in case they walk into the room, I don't have to worry about averting their eyes or anything. So I try to be conscious about that. But once everyone is asleep, then I'll usually have more or less free reign as to what I'm able to watch. So that's my home viewing habits when it comes to watching Blu-rays and DVDs and Laserdiscs and VHS tapes and the like. And also, I will try to make sure that the Blu-ray cover art that is a little bit risque, I will make sure that those Blu-rays are out of sight. So I don't want my 2-year-old to come in and see, for instance, the cover art of Zombie 2 or something. I mean, I think it's a really fine piece of artwork for the Arrow Blu-ray that I have. It's really lovely, but I understand that this sort of thing is probably inappropriate. Not probably, it is inappropriate for my little 2-year-old to come in and see. And so I don't want to expose that stuff to him quite yet. I'm not completely against that kind of artwork. I think it's, once there's an understanding of what it means, I think there's a time and a place to show my kids exactly what I am interested in. And so hopefully that'll come at some point later in their lives. But in the meantime, I don't see any rush to force any kind of exposure of any kind of potentially risque artwork on them. So I usually try to, I just make a quick judgment call, and anything that I think is a little bit inappropriate for any kids to see, I'll just tuck it away and make sure it's in a place where I know that they won't be able to access readily. Then as far as my watching habits are concerned, I will usually try to, I'm not usually that strict. I will try to watch a film in one sitting, and if it means staying up late at night, making sure that I watch the entire film, usually I will stick to that. Of course, that means that I can't choose a super long film to watch on a weeknight. For instance, I wouldn't choose something like, I don't know, Chieshichu West of the Tracks, for instance, or I wouldn't choose Showa, for instance, or I wouldn't choose to watch the entirety of Berlin Alexanderplatz, for instance. I don't think that's feasible within the time span that I'm thinking of. Probably at most, I would probably consider watching maybe a 3 or 4 hour film at most during the night. And I'm usually okay in the morning because for whatever reason, thus far anyway, I don't feel any after effects of lack of sleep. And so I'm able to wake up on my usual morning routine and get ready for work. So usually I get up around 5:15, 5:20 or so in the morning and just get ready for work and do all that stuff. So usually I don't have any after effects. So maybe I'll watch a film starting from around, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, and then just go from there, and then just take it through to the end of the film. And also, I should point out that I try also to fit in a little bit of time to make a YouTube video or something. So that will also eat into a little bit of the time at night. So that figures into the calculus for me. So for instance, if I'm thinking of making a YouTube video, then maybe after that I will pick a film that is not so long. And then likewise, if I don't have any plans to make a YouTube video that night, then maybe I'll pick a film that more or less can be any length of time. So that's the general routine that I myself face when I watch a movie. And again, those are real practical concerns more than anything else. When I go to the movie theater, by the way, which is not so often, but when I go to the movie theater, I try to make sure that I go to the restroom beforehand, and so that I don't have to get up in the middle of the film and miss out on something. I'm usually very strict about that, although I'm not so strict as I used to be when I was younger. When I was younger, I was very, maybe Spartan when it came to my film watching in the theater. I took it incredibly seriously. I made sure that I had to have a certain seat in the certain part of the theater. I made sure not to eat anything during the show, but to eat stuff beforehand so I didn't have to worry about my stomach grumbling. I made sure to go to the restroom and all that. So I wanted to focus just on the screen itself. I took it very, very seriously. But there was a point where I realized that it was just sometimes nature calls. I remember the film I saw in the theater with my mother and father when I was in high school. I was in high school maybe? Yes, I was still in high school, I think. It was the film Titanic, James Cameron's Titanic. So I saw that in the theater, and it was a real exhilarating experience. I thought it was very suspenseful and quite engaging. But I remember I did all the preparations beforehand. I went to the restroom. I made sure I ate a little bit before, and just to make sure I didn't have to think about leaving the theater beforehand, because I hated, at the time, I was really insistent on not leaving the theater in the middle of a film, even to go to the restroom. So if I felt nature calling, as it were, I would always try to just be patient and wait until the film was over, and then just casually go to the restroom after the film was over. And this was true when I went to the film Titanic. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I really felt the call of nature around, I don't know, around the middle around the middle of the film. I started to feel a little bit of the urge, so to speak, and it was. That my policy was such that I really wanted to make sure I stayed with the film. I didn't leave the theater, and so I stayed with the film. I just made sure to be patient and just wait until the film was over, and then after the film was over, I would go to the restroom, and that would be that. Unfortunately, there were a couple things that were not in my favor. First of all, the film is incredibly long, 3 hour plus or something. So I had to wait about an hour and a half or so until the film was over. And then the other thing that was very unfortunate in terms of what my particular physical situation was at the time was there was a lot of, maybe you know if you've seen the film Titanic, it's no spoiler when I say there's a lot of water on the screen. There's a lot of gushing of water and water flowing and trickling and waves crashing and all this stuff, this liquid on the screen. And so it was actually quite unbearable. And that's just seeing all this water rushing. And so I decided I couldn't be patient anymore, so I just left the theater in the middle of the film, and I rushed to the restroom. So, but it was quite an ordeal, and I think from that point on, I realized that it's not a good idea to ignore the call of nature. So from that point on, I tried to take a little bit of a more relaxed approach towards watching films in the theater. I still try to make all these preparations where I can, but beforehand. But still, I'll just try to be as just to be as practical as I can. So if something occurs, some kind of reason that compels me to leave the theater momentarily, then I will do so, and I won't usually mind that. So. Maybe I've mellowed out a little bit, I'm not sure. But when I was younger, I was actually very, very serious about making sure I was absorbing the entire experience. So that was very important to me. And even now, when I hear people and their approach to cinema when they watch films, I really admire people who take watching films very seriously, and they make sure that they have the optimal situation. And everything is really, as to the extent possible, the ideal conditions. So I really, really admire that approach. I suppose I'm just, maybe it's I don't know, maybe I'm getting older, I don't know. Or maybe it's just I realize that I have too many practical concerns that means that I cannot necessarily devote my full energy to making sure all the conditions are ideal for me. So who knows? But I still respect and admire anyone who who has that approach even now. So yes. And another thing too is when I watch a film, of course this is true in the theater, but this is also true when I watch a film here in my home. I will never, I will turn off my phone. I will make sure my computer's off. I don't like to have any kind of distraction like that. If the kids come in, or if maybe my family calls, that's a completely different thing. I don't mind that at all, so I'll stop the film. But I don't want to have a phone, I don't want to have a computer, because there's just something nice about not having those devices there. Don't get me wrong, I love having an iPhone, I love having a computer, but it's just nice to be able to turn those off and to focus one's attention solely on the art that is on display with the film that you're watching. So I don't say that everyone has to do that. I'm not saying that you have to have the exact same approach as I do, but and I know people who are, for instance, they use their phone to take notes while they're watching a movie, or maybe they'll use their phone to look up some kind of thing that is being referred to in the film. I find that to be very useful because it's very helpful as a guide to try to keep up with what's going on in the film. So that kind of use of external devices, I think, is perfectly legitimate. So don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge anyone who uses that or adopts that whenever they watch a film. It's just, for me, I don't like that sort of stuff for my own personal viewing experience. But again, I'm speaking only for me. And I think that's it. I don't have a big TV. I don't have the most optimal audio setup because, again, this is I'm living in an apartment in Tokyo, and so I have to be concerned about noise because I don't want to bother my neighbors here. And so I'll usually, I don't usually like to watch films with headphones. So I usually like to hear it in the room, feel it in the air, if you know what I mean. But I'll try to make sure that the volume is not so high and make adjustments where necessary. And then I don't mind if I usually don't like to turn off the lights when I watch a movie because my eyes are not so good. So I usually like to make sure that there are some lights on and watch a movie like that. And that's basically my viewing habits when watching a movie these days. So I hope that answers your question. And thank you very much for the great question. I really appreciate it. And now let me throw the question back at you. What are your viewing habits or rituals when you watch a film? Are you very concerned about achieving a certain level of optimal conditions when you watch a film? Or do you care about certain things but not necessarily other things? Are you concerned about your audio-visual setup and the like, etc.? I know everyone has his or her own approach, so I would love to hear what your approach is to this kind of question of how you view a film. What are the conditions in which you watch a film, and what are the conditions in which you want to watch a film? So I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you have any thoughts or comments, please, of course, as always, please feel free to leave them down below. I'd love to read them and engage with you. And maybe I can pick up a few good ideas from you as to how I can perhaps better improve my own viewing habits. Okay, my friends, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. And also, if you have any questions that you want to ask me, please feel free to do so. I might, because of just the nature of the question, I might just answer the question in the form of a response in the comment section. But once in a while, I might want to answer a question in a video format. And so, please, if you have any questions at all, let me know, and if I think it's appropriate, I'd love to respond in a video format. I can't usually, my response time is usually pretty slow, so I ask for your patience about that. But if you don't mind waiting a little bit, then of course, if you have any questions that you want to ask me and you want me to answer in a video fashion, again, I can't make any promises. I have only so much time in the day, so I can't make a video response to every single comment I receive. I'm very grateful because I receive a lot of really nice comments, but it's just my own personal time is very limited, so I can only pick maybe a couple and address those. But still, if you don't mind the possibility of maybe I wouldn't necessarily respond in a video, but I might. So I guess my point is that if you want to leave a question for me to answer, I will try to do so to the best of my ability. So, and anyway, I hope you are well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Until we meet again, my friends. Cheers.